What if the life that you want to live is only one discipline decision away? And normally, when you're thinking about discipline, you think to some degree motivation. You're motivated to do something. And there's nothing wrong in and of itself of being motivated because, it's an important aspect of something that we do. And so maybe we're more motivated because someone has encouraged us to do something. Or maybe you're motivated by your spouse or a friend or your parents to do something. And it is good, but it has its limits. And discipline, I find, is something that lasts. It goes beyond what motivation can provide. And the purpose of the video today is really just to look at some practical steps that you can take to become more disciplined. But what is discipline? Discipline, I would say, is something that you're looking at what matters most over what you feel at the time. So let's use exercise as an example. Maybe you started going to the gym, and in the first week or two, things are pretty good, right? You've been pretty consistent. Let's say I want to hit up the gym 5 days a week. And for the first week, no problem. Second week, no problem. Third week kind of hits. And all of a sudden, you're like, you know what? I don't feel like it. I don't want to get up and get out of bed and go to the gym. It becomes no longer something you want to do because you're not feeling like you want to do it. So you skip a day or you skip a couple days. But you're back at the gym the next day, and then it starts to become no longer consistent. And now you're going based on how you feel. And so, if I could simplify it even a little bit more, I would say discipline is making a promise to yourself, something that you've determined that you're going to do. And discipline is something that you would just make small decisions every day that you would just do consistently over time. I've heard of people that take like a notepad and they write down a notepad, okay, I'm going to do, let's just say brushing teeth. And you put down brushing teeth. Another thing would be like maybe making your bed. Another is laying at your clothes the day before work, things like that. And you just check them off. And you'd have them on, say, a 30-day schedule, and you jot them off, right? So it's just those little tiny changes, and you're keeping record and keeping yourself accountable, and saying, I promised I'm going to start doing this thing. And then you make those specific changes, and it adds to your level of discipline in a particular area. But why is it now that a lot of people seem to struggle when it comes to discipline? Because a lot of people see the benefit in doing it, say practicing something consistently over time, developing that skill. So you can see a lot of the benefits perhaps on the outset, but why is it hard to stick to? And part of it is because we are creatures of comfort. We enjoy being comfortable. We like to sit back and say, maybe watch a little bit of TV, right? So we might watch our favorite TV shows, watch Netflix, whatever it is. Or maybe we like to sit back and play some video games, right? Nothing wrong in and of themselves, because those are things that we're comfortable with. Another thing could be distractions that we have, our social media, and we have TV, and we have video games. We have a whole whack of things that we could be distracted by from something that we ought to do. And so we make, we say, "Oh, yeah, I want to be disciplined in doing this particular thing," but then all of these other things kind of come up. And another thing I would add on to that is it's important to have a clear goal. What is a clear purpose, a clear vision for whatever it is that you want? So for example, let's go back to the fitness example. Imagine that you say, okay, well, I want to lose weight. And you'll say, well, write down what is your goal. Say, I want to lose 20 pounds by within 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, and write it down and say, okay, that's good. That's a good goal. How are you going to achieve that goal? Well, I'm going to go to the gym 3 or 4 days a week, right? So that's a good goal, or that's a good way to achieve that goal, I should say, right? And so you have those clear measurable goals that you're going to be setting, saying, hey, yeah, I have done that. Then you schedule it in. And then, of course, you start acting on it, right? You jot down the days that you're going, and you say, even have like a little checklist saying that these are the days that I've gone. And that's a great way of managing that for sure. But what are some of the benefits of discipline? And I had mentioned a couple, but a lot of times when we're wanting to be disciplined in a particular area, we have a hard time weighing the pros and the cons because, as I said before, we like to be comfortable. We like to just enjoy where we're at. And sometimes being disciplined can take a lot of effort. And that's definitely true. But the benefits are sometimes when it has to do, especially when it's physical fitness, is you're looking at your physical health improving, right? You're looking at your mental health because it's connected with our physical health improving as well. Another could be, let's say you and your wife or you and your husband are going to the gym and you're encouraging each other. Well, there's another dynamic of the relational health. And by going, say, to the gym, going in the same example, the idea of being dependable. So if you do have a workout partner and say you don't have a husband or wife, but it's just a good friend of yours or just a gym buddy that you have that, hey, you go to the gym together, say Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they keep you accountable and you keep them accountable. And a lot of times it's good because it helps because there is a degree of motivation for sure, but you're also disciplined now that you're like, hey, I'm going at, let's just say, 6 a.m. in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week. And you want to be dependable for that person. They're depending on you and you're depending on them. So it's like, again, it's adding that motivation but also that discipline to be able to adhere to the plan or the goal that you guys have set for each other. And the idea of discipline is that it also opens opportunities. Now, if you imagine, one of the things that's really important that is lacking a lot of times is how people, because you prefer to be comfortable, there's a skill that you could learn. And when you learn different skills, they can create opportunities for income, right? So perhaps you've always been interested in, let's say, photography, and you've always wanted to do photography, but you know nothing about photography. And you're like, well, I want to learn about it, but then you have to learn to be disciplined to even do it. And so maybe you buy a nice camera and you're like, I just want to go and shoot things and then, find out about lighting. I want to find out about, well, what kind of things do I like to take photographs of or whatever. And you become disciplined in learning how to do it. But then over time, you learn how to, use the camera properly. You have all the settings dialed in and you find out you're actually pretty good at it. And now you have developed a skill. And well, what can you do with the skill? Well, maybe you become a photographer on, even if it's you have a full-time job, but maybe you can make a little extra income as like a side hustle or something like that, where you're doing photography for photo shoots or you're doing them for weddings or whatever it is. And it's just another skill that you learn based on the benefits of discipline. You've learned a new skill that now can add a little bit more to your income. So that's always a good thing as well, right? So on the video today so far, we looked at discipline, what it is, what are some of its benefits. Now I want to look at some steps that you can take to become more disciplined. The first step I would say is to start small. What I mean by that is you want to make incremental changes. Become disciplined in a small thing before you become disciplined in a larger thing. So let's just say, for example, you're like, you know what? I really want to become more disciplined with keeping my house clean. And so one of those things might be, well, as opposed to saying, I want my house clean all the time, regardless. Uh, Maybe you might be beneficial to just do a small task that you become consistent with. So say for example, it's as soon as you're done making food, you clean it, right? You just do that every single time. Another could be making your bed. So every morning when you wake up, you make your bed, right? So that's another thing. Maybe you want to become more disciplined with reading. And you're like, I love books, but I always have a hard time setting aside some time to actually read because, well, in order to read books, you got to read, right? And so maybe you might just do, say, 10 minutes every day. So every day, you even schedule it in. Let's just, I want to say I want to read for 10 minutes this book, and that could be a good starting point, right? Another could be if you want to be more physically fit or you want to take more seriously your physical health, um, then you might do, say, 15 minutes a day. So every day for 15 minutes, you do a walk or you go to the gym for 15 minutes, or if you have weights at home. So every day for those 15 minutes, you just block that in. And then with all of those examples, maybe you just add to them, right? So for example, if it's, walking, say for 10, 15 minutes, well, next time you do it, maybe the next week, you might do for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, right? Increasing that duration. If it's reading a book, as opposed to 10 to 15 minutes that you're going to be reading a book, maybe you'll do 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Because when you've determined to be disciplined for the short durations, it's much, much easier to do it for a longer period of time. Because sometimes I find people will bite off more than they can chew. And so they'll say, hey, you know what? I'm going to start running, say, 10 kilometers or 10 miles a day. Now, that's an admirable goal to have, but is it realistic for most people? No. And so, by just starting with those incremental changes, by just becoming disciplined in a small amount and then slowly increasing that over time. Another way to become more disciplined is to create routines instead of relying on, say, motivation for something. So say for example, we're talking about, becoming more disciplined with being having a little bit more time in the morning. Well, one of the things that you could do as a routine is every single night before you go to bed, you lay out your work clothes, the clothes you're going to wear for the next morning. So when you wake up in the morning, you make that bed, then your clothes are already laid out and you're ready to go, right? So maybe you'll have that time. Then again, adding these kind of things together, then you'll have time to do that workout in the morning, or you'll have time to do your 10 minutes or 15 minutes of reading in the morning. So just by creating those routines allows you and helps you to stick with it in order to become more disciplined over time. Another way is to remove any distractions. So if part of the thing is social media, that might be really difficult for you on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, that if it's your phone that is really distracting you, remove it from where you are, right? Having it in another room, or if your gaming system's in a particular room, do your reading in another room, or your TV in another room, or whatever it is. Removing any distractions, any unwanted distractions from helping you to, but removing any distractions that will distract you from, well, your goal, right? To become more disciplined in a particular area, just removing those so that they don't become bigger issues down the line, right? So you're learning, you're growing. Another way to become more disciplined is to track your progress. What I mean by this is having a notepad or even an app on your phone in which you could see whatever discipline that you're trying to create, whatever skill you're trying to learn or whatever it is, jot it down and then just have like a checkbox. And every time you accomplish that task for the day, let's just say it's a 10-minute walk every morning at 7 a.m., you can check it off and you can have it even on your work board. If you have it, you could have it on your fridge, your freezer, whatever it is, and then just have it right there. And it's easily accessible. You have your pen ready. You're like, hey, I did my walk, right? Or check off. And in that way, you can kind of see how disciplined you've been that week, or have you been able to hit your goals? And sometimes, of course, you got to give yourself a little bit of grace. Realize that sometimes you are not going to be able to hit those goals, right? And that's totally fine. But to say you did your walk for 4 or 5 times this week, and you missed out those 2 days. That's okay. You kind of track that and say, hey, maybe I'll try to do better next week. And that's another goal that you can kind of reach, and you can kind of make those adjustments, and you can find out, why is it that I missed those 2 days? How can I change that so it doesn't happen, say, next week? And this is a great way to track your progress from where you started to where you are now. A fifth practical step would be consistency. So staying consistent as much as you possibly can, even when you don't feel motivated, because there are going to be times when you are not motivated to do something. So if you want to learn, let's just add an instrument in here. Say you want to learn to play guitar, and you're like, hey, I really like certain bands. I've always wanted to learn how to play guitar. And you've said to yourself, I'm going to learn how to play guitar this year. And that's a great goal. That's a great skill to learn. And it's a lot of fun. But in order to become any good at it, or to have some level of understanding in terms of, playing at any level, is going to take work. It's going to take some degree of consistency. So you say, for example, you do 10, 15 minutes a day, right? Just developing those habits and being consistent will make you a disciplined guitar player. So my challenge to you is to commit to making one habit change this week. So for the next 7 days, endeavor to create one new habit. So whether that's making your bed every day, doing a 10-minute walk, reading one chapter in your book, whatever it is, and say, even track it down, make a commitment to do that. And then I find that whenever you're disciplined to do one thing, it's easier to transfer how you became disciplined in that one thing to become disciplined in another. So, for example, I'm a drummer, and I find that when I learned to play drums, it was easier to learn how to play piano, and it was easier to learn how to play guitar, because I've already spent the time learning to be disciplined in one thing. It was easier to transfer to the other two. So, discipline isn't about being perfect, it's about committing and being consistent with the little things that can become bigger things. Things that go from something that might be small in the beginning, that help you to become more disciplined and have a more disciplined life in not just one area, but in a wide array of areas. And people that are disciplined aren't disciplined in just one thing. They're disciplined in a number of things. To close the video, I wanted to share a little quote that I came across that I think you guys will like. Your future isn't built by what you do occasionally, it's built by what you do consistently. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.